The first North American regional has just concluded, and there's been a couple of controversies already, and they were on stream. So we're going to talk about that today in this video, as well as talk about the deck that did win Pittsburgh regionals and go over some of the techs and why they were there. But we can also uncover why some of the discrepancies on stream happened and how to prevent them. I'm PJ here with How Not to Suck TCG, and we're going to cover it all for you in this video, so stick around. Now, I know I said controversy in the intro of this video, but it really was just plain old mistakes. Now, mistakes that could be corrected, but two very notable players were playing in Pokemon's first North American regional event, and we can even take a look at these in high definition here to see exactly where the issues had been made. Now, if we first look at Rahul Reddy in the 8th round of the first day here, playing against Haliburton, which would inevitably go on to win the event, we can see that Rahul is trying to scramble for game 2. Now, within game 2, we see that one of the opening turns, Rahul is using Secret Box as his ace spec. Now, Secret Box is able to grab one tool card, one stadium card, one supporter card, and one item card, but in this case Rahul opts to grab 2 tool cards and an item card, discarding the TM Evolution with the Earthen Vessel to get energy into the discard, and that's because he has Professor Research in hand. Now, Professor's Research is going to discard all of the cards out of Rahul's hand to draw him 7 fresh new cards, but in this case, Rahul just oversteps and doesn't think about the cards that he is actually getting off of this secret box. Now, had somebody at the table caught this, whether it be a table judge or even Liam or Rahul, seeing these cards placed down are something that I have to note here. Now, noting this, if you are playing a high stakes match, or maybe you do get on stream, something to know in your mind and to practice when you're playing is to take a deep breath and evaluate what's happening in front of you. A lot of players do what's called tunnel visioning. Tunnel visioning is when you're focused on a goal and you don't see the things around you as if you're looking through a tunnel. So in this case, if Rahul or if possibly even Liam were to look at the board state and see that obviously there's 2 tools on the table off of Secret Box, both knowing exactly what the card does, then we could have prevented this. However, Rahul did end up scooping this game, losing that game of the set. So in the end, it didn't really matter. However, I know that a lot of people will give online flack to Rahul. However, there are multiple parties who could have prevented this, and also, again, practicing the take a breath technique where you can learn from your mistakes by just viewing the board, viewing your board state, taking a deep breath, and then continuing your action before jumping to what I like to call as an action conclusion. Then on our next clip, close to finals, we see Calvin Connor versus Abaan Ahmed. Now, both playing a very similar deck, if not close to the mirror here. We can see that they all have Monkey Dory and multiple Monkey Dory in their deck. At the end of their 3rd game, we see that Abaan was trying to go with a pop-off moment, throw their headphones down on the table, in which case the Monkey Dory does slide across the board to Calvin Connor's side. Now, Cal mistakenly does scoop up all of his cards and put them together, not knowing that at the end of the game, Calvin actually has 61 cards in his deck, where Abaan only has 59. That in turn resulted in a game loss because Abaan had been playing with 59 cards. Knowing against Liam Haliburton, having a dark deck and countering Gardevoir, that's not a great matchup anyway, does scoop in the finals. Now, in this case, I think that it really was just a pure mistake, not knowing, because you cannot see the back of the sleeve of the card when you're scooping up all your cards. It had already been an intense match. We were already at the end of the set. Kelvin honestly picks up their cards, puts them all together, and keeps moving forward. Now again here, this is something that can be prevented by checking your deck in between sets. You can even check your deck in between games within a set. And we know that pile shuffling is a touchy subject, but you can still count your cards to make sure that there are 60. Another thing that you should be doing in this situation is always making sure that your card sleeves are not damaged in between games. Now, this can be done from round 1 all the way to round 14. We do need to continually make sure that there are no errors in our deck list and that there aren't any errors on our card sleeves. These things can lose you games and inevitably take you from making it into a day 2 to sitting on the sideline having an early lunch. Now, we don't want to do that. We want you to suck less here on How Not to Suck TCG, but we do want you to know that these things are preventable. So making sure that you have correct deck sleeves and that you have the correct deck list in between games also helps you get a little bit of a mental relaxation state so we can prevent these things in the future. Alright, now that we've got the controversy out of the way, let's hop into the winning deck list and why it won Pittsburgh Regionals. We knew that going into the Regionals, Dragapult was going to be a threat, Gardevoir was going to be a threat, and Gholdengo was going to be another threat here. So how are we able to combat those big three going into the event? Now, there's some other fringe decks that were also taken into consideration, I feel, when building this list, and Liam Haliburton, who was the champion for Pittsburgh Regionals in 2025, does have a lot of experience playing Zoroark EX. Now, looking at the list here, which we'll put up on screen, let's go through and take a look at the full list. So obviously playing the 4/4 line for the Zoroark, but we do have 2 Reshiram and 2 Monkey Dory in this list. Now the double Monkey Dory does help with moving damage back onto our opponent's field, especially when being placed there by decks like Dragapult or decks like Gardevoir. So the double Monkey Dory tech is really good here to push that damage back. Now we also see a Pecharunt EX, which will help you get out of any sort of lock. We also knew, again talking about fringe decks, that we had a lot of Terra Box going into this event. So Terra Box being able to utilize the Wellspring Ogerpon for the Sob attack and just leaving an opponent's Pokemon stranded in the active, Pecharunt EX definitely helps out in this situation and also can be a viable attacker late game. Now we see that there was a direct counter to Gholdengo EX with the Toedscruel here with the Slimy Mold Colony, and having that tech in this list is really good because you're playing a 2/1 line. You could potentially set up 2 Toedscruel to get those out on the board so your opponent can't snipe one onto the bench here or gust it up and knock it out. Now this is also good because Dragapult catches strays with this by not being able to use as many Night Stretchers, and Gardevoir kind of too, but more or less having this as a Gholdengo and Dragapult counter is really good. Now the other tech when it comes to Pokemon here is Maractus. There are a lot of decks that have evolution Pokemon that cannot retreat because of Latias in their list, but just having Maractus there as a way of blocking things from retreating, this is an extra added control tech to this list, and I really do like the Maractus. It holds up in a lot of different matchups. Having the corner attack for a single colorless energy is really good here. Now if we look at the supporter line, moving away from an Arvent engine and onto a Serrano engine just to get all of your EXs out in the field, you can get things like Pheasantipede, Pecharunt, and more importantly your Zoroark EX. Just having the Zoroark flood the board is really good in a lot of scenarios, and I do like this list. We've seen it in the past, but bringing it back into a list to keep the consistency up is great. We also see the inclusion of Hilda in this list. Now I know that a lot of decks are looking for just a way of getting special energy out with Hilda, but this one is only reliant on finding the energy within the deck, so it's an extra added way of finding your energy and also potentially finding either your N Zoroark EX or your Toedscruel. Now, to close off the techs in this list, we look to the stadiums here, and seeing the 2 Team Rockets Watchtower is really what we want to pay attention to here. We knew that Raging Bolt was going to be huge in this meta as well as one of those, like I say, fringe decks, but it turned out it was in the top 5 of the meta share in both day 1 and day 2. So having Raging Bolt as a counter in mind, having these shut off all of the Noctowls, and even for Terrabox, shutting off the Noctowls is a huge advantage in a lot of situations. So having the double Team Rockets Watchtower, so good in these matchups, shutting down Fan Rotom, shutting down Noctowl, and maybe even the fringe Pidgeot EXs that show up from time to time. Having this as an additional card in the list provides so much value, and as we can see, that obviously granted Liam, who is a phenomenal player alone, the advantage to win the event. Now, I was hyping up N Zoroark EX a lot leading up to Pittsburgh. I thought it was a good call, and especially not knowing what Liam was going to be bringing, seeing all these techs here is really, really good and gets us to the point where we can understand why deck building comes in to be such a huge play on getting those wins. Knowing what the meta is, there again will never be a perfect deck, but this is absolutely perfect for the meta. Now, what you would want to do with an N Zoroark list like this is just take it and modify it. Maybe your local meta does not play all of the same types of decks. It's not a broad field. Maybe you want to take some of these techs out that we were talking about out of your list and put some techs of your own. And that's how you're going to develop your own list. That is how you're going to hone in on. If you love to play N Zoroark EX, take this list, copy it, paste it over, play 10 games with it. If something doesn't feel right, play 10 more games with a additional swap. Learning how to play a deck isn't just picking up a deck and understanding how the pieces and parts move. It's how to understand how it works in the meta. Liam obviously was able to take his knowledge of previous games and his knowledge of how the meta is going to shape up based on the other 2 regionals that have happened already this season after the World Championship, and adapt the list accordingly. Now, I'm sure Liam probably got more than 20 games in with this list before going to the regionals, and you should too. Any deck that you choose, whether it's N Zoroark EX or whether it's Dragapult, Gardevoir, you do need to play games. I talked about that in a prior video as well, that you just need to get the reps in, play the games, learn what they are, because having this knowledge is what got Liam the win. So you can get wins into as long as you're experienced with the deck and have enough reps and understand the meta. If you don't think that Toedscruel is going to be good in your locals for a cup or a challenge because you don't think any Goldango players are going to show up, take the Toedscruel out and put something else in that might be more effective. If you don't think that there's going to be a lot of Terrabox or Raging Bolt with Noctowl, take out the Watchtowers and put something else like an Ends Castle in your list. But try it out. Try it with different techs to see if the consistency is still there. See if you can get game wins in under your belt. Play it on the TCG Live ladder. Play it on tcgmasters.net. Copy and paste some other winning lists, whether it be from Japan, whether it be from Twitter, whether it be your friends list that they're going to bring to locals. Just test it out and make sure that you're understanding how the matchups work, and you too can get wins under your belt for the next championship. Now, I know I covered a lot on today's video, but there was a lot that happened. It's always exciting when we get a North American regionals and we're able to view a couple of cool things that came out of it. We're not necessarily at the end of the meta yet, but we're really close, and we're going to get Mega Evolution cards too. Now, if you did enjoy this video, make sure you're leaving a like, subscribe to the channel for more content like this so you don't miss out, and comment down below on any videos you'd like to see going forward. I'm PJ here with How Not to Suck TCG, and we'll catch you next time.